Thank you for being here. My name is Frida Berrigan. I'm with Witness Against Torture. The rain and the dark skies are an appropriate, uncomfortable but appropriate backdrop as we gather again on January 11th. This is the 7th year that we have marked this date. The day in 2002 when the first men dubbed enemy combatants were brought to Guantanamo. It's a day of national shame. It's a day of remembrance, a day of resistance, and of reaching across the chasms of race, religion, fear-mongering, scapegoating, to recognize as brothers, as fathers, as sons, as human beings, the men our government has tortured, indefinitely detained, and labeled terrorist. So here we are again, with friends from hosts of organizations and groups united in a common goal: to close down Guantanamo, to free those unjustly held, to see justice done. We're here to make Guantanamo history, but to never forget how low our country sank into fear, into hatred, into racism, into unconscionable violence. I'm going to turn the microphone over to Jeremy Barron. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now to begin executing the program, we're going to hear from Andy Worthington, who has been called an encyclopedia of information about Guantanamo. I prefer to think of him as the Oracle, because he provides not just information, but wisdom and insight, and is really the deep well of knowledge from which all activists around the world have drawn in their work.
The one thing that we can say that is different from a year ago is that 11 men have been freed from Guantanamo in the last year. Since August, in fact, and that's significant, because in the 3 years before that, just 5 men were released because of the obstacles raised by Congress and President Obama's refusal to overcome those obstacles, even though he had the power to do so. So what we're looking at now is 155 men and still held at Guantanamo. But let's remember what it took to get those 11 men out of Guantanamo in the last few months. It took a prison-wide hunger strike that lasted for 6 months by men who were in despair, had been abandoned by the world, and were in despair at ever being released or given justice. The world's media woke up. The European Parliament criticized President Obama. The United Nations criticized President Obama. 1 million of us signed petitions calling for the closure of Guantanamo. That would have been unthinkable a year ago. And eventually President Obama was compelled to act. But let's put this in the context now. There are 76 other men who exactly 4 years ago were told that the United States government no longer wanted to carry on holding them by a task force, a high-level interagency task force appointed by the president. Those 76 men are still held, and a man has just been cleared by a review board, making 77 men of the 155 that President Obama here says he no longer wants to hold. Thank you very, very much for turning out here.
Thank you so much, Andy. And now I'd like to bring forward one of the earliest Guantanamo attorneys, Tom Wilner, and then Sami El-Hajj, who was released, I believe, in 2007, had a very moving YouTube appearance where he singled out the lawyers like Tom to distinguish the compassion and kindness and commitment of the American people from the cruelty of our government. So I bring Tom really to honor the entire legal team that has worked so tirelessly for so many years.
This is the 12th anniversary of the opening of Guantanamo. There should be no 13th anniversary. This place should be closed. The president has the authority to send the people out of there. He has no more excuses. Congress has given him the authority he asked to, and he should send the people home. It's a terrible, terrible tragedy to the individuals there. Shakir Amar from England has not seen his son, who was born while he's been in captivity. That's a terrible tragedy, and it's a shame on this country. It hurts us every day it remains open. It makes us hypocrites around the world, and it's a chief recruiting tool for terrorism. Mr. Obama, close this place.
Right on.
Shut it down!
We're going to welcome up now Layli Kashani. She works with the Center for Constitutional Rights, and she's the Advocacy Program Manager of Guantanamo Global Justice Initiative. Welcome, Layli.
I confess it's really something of a horror to have to stand here today again to mark and protest this odious 12th anniversary of the U.S. prison at Guantanamo. It is certainly, as we've said here, an anniversary that should not have come. Last year, the men at Guantanamo reawakened the world to their plight through a mass hunger strike. With this act of conscience, they pressured the Obama administration to do the right thing and begin releasing men again after a period of 9 months without a single transfer. But Guantanamo remains a travesty of justice. The base is looking more and more like an internment camp for Yemeni men. Yemenis now make up more than half of Guantanamo's population, even though most of them were cleared for release years ago. Not one Yemeni man has been sent home since 2010, and the last Yemeni man who left Guantanamo was Adnan Latif, who was cleared for release 4 times but left in a coffin. The Obama administration must begin releasing Yemenis without further delay if it is to make real progress towards closing Guantanamo. It must effectively end this collective punishment based on nationality. I want to leave you with the names and voices of 4 Yemeni men trapped at Guantanamo today. These are men who we at the Center for Constitutional Rights represent. Just quick snapshots of their humanity and who they are. There is Ghalib al-Behani, a young man who has spent a third of his life at Guantanamo without charge and who is seriously ill. He has said, "All I think about is release and rebuilding my life." There is Fahad Ghazi, who marked his 29th birthday in a cell in Camp Echo. Fahad was sent to Guantanamo soon after he graduated from high school at the top of his class. He was only 17 years old then and now has spent more than 11 years at the prison. Fahad has never been charged with a crime and he has been cleared in 2007 and 2009. In a letter, I'll make this fast, Fahad asked us to please buy his little girl cards and stickers with flowers and hearts on them for her birthday, which she missed. He also asked us to please purchase pretty cards to send his wife for their wedding anniversary. Fahad has told us that all he hopes is to be reunited with his wife and his daughter again. And here I am holding a photo of Tariq Ba'odam, who was 24 years old when he arrived at Guantanamo in 2002. He has never been charged with any crime and was cleared in 2009. He's been continuously hunger striking for his freedom for nearly 7 years, during which he has been force-fed twice a day, every day. His hunger strike is his means of expressing to the world the magnitude of the injustice he suffers. I will just leave you with one quote from him. "Remembering the past keeps me hopeful for the future. But the reality is that I do not know when I will see my family again or when I will leave this cell." I will end with Mohammed al-Hamiri, who was sent to Guantanamo in 2002 when he was just 19 or 20 years old, and he was cleared in 2009. Despite his immense suffering, Mohammed leaves us with words of hope. He says, "After hardships comes relief. Look at the hours of the night, the last hours of the night when it's in its darkest state, and how a few minutes later, a morning glow starts filling the earth." It is up to us to make sure that this hope for justice for all the men at Guantanamo is not in vain. And I hope that one day, soon, we will stand here to remember Guantanamo as a horror that has been relegated to the American past. And until then, this is no time to slacken our demand for President Obama to finally fulfill his promise to shut it down. There can be no more excuses. Thank you so much for standing here today.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to bring forward a member of 9/11 Families for Peaceful Tomorrows. These are folks who lost loved ones on 9/11 and chose not to turn their grief into a cry for war, but instead a cry for compassion.
I am Valerie Luchnikovska. I lost my nephew Adam Arias in the World Trade Center on 9/11. The families of the victims of 9/11 have been waiting for 13 years for justice. It's about time we got some justice. But there's another group of people we can't ignore. The families of the men in Guantanamo. They demand justice also. Many of them are waiting for people who have never been charged, but even those families who are waiting for men who are self-professedly guilty deserve justice also. They deserve to know where things stand. I would also like to make a plea to Mr. Obama and to the whole military commissions set up that they remove Colonel Bogdan from his post. He's the one who has reinstituted horrible things in the prison, and he should be removed immediately. Thank you.